Hey, what's up guys, Shadow Steel here, and this video is going to be a very unique video for Railroads Online, because we're going to be discussing some tips and tricks for any player to learn on Railroads Online, and the little features and stuff that is, not really discussed very much or even shown off very much. This was a video idea that has been more or less suggested to me, not directly, but because I get so many comments on the Railroads Online videos about, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I do this? How do I do that? Type of stuff. So I decided, why not make a video discussing some of these tips and tricks that I have learned via other sources, whether it be directly from the Railroads Online team or through just my own experience. But let's get started, shall we? The first tip we're going to go over is whether or not you are going into Railroads Online for the first time or coming back from a long period of absence. And that is the fact that there are pre-laid maps for all 4 maps on Railroads Online. To access these, you have to go into New Game and access the pre-laid map function. From there, you can fiddle with the settings and everything else. And once you get into the game, you'll get your choice of 3 locomotives, which each locomotive has their own stats in a way that is not directly referenced. For example, the Montezuma will be faster but weaker in energy. The Shea will be stronger but slower. And the Porter, well, it's the middle of the road. So I always suggest going with the Porter for your starting locomotive, as it's the simplest and easiest way to go about hauling cars around heavy grades and whatnot from or level track. So that's how to get started there. Another little tip is that once you're in the driving UI for any locomotive, you can actually adjust which car you're looking at via the arrow keys, or depending on what you have set up in the options menu, back and forth between cars. From there, you can actually load and unload freight on the fly. This is actually very useful because you can regulate your speed with the regulator, the reverser, and the brakes while unloading and loading cars. However, there is some little funky little issues with this, such as with chutes on certain industries, like the coal mine and the iron ore mine respectively, in that because of the 2 chutes, it will randomly pick which one to use to unload and load, or well, load. And once you move any direction, it will automatically switch to the next one over, and will cause you to have to get out of the cab and actually close the chute, lest you waste materials. From there, it's also worth noting that any locomotives connected while driving a locomotive in a consist, so having a double header, is easier to do with the driving UI, as all locomotives are operated from a single locomotive. They're basically multiple united together. This makes operating larger, heavier freights over the road much easier, because it doesn't matter where the locomotive is set in the consist. All it will need you to do will be to operate from the lead locomotive or any locomotive in the consist, and the other locomotives will respond as a result. However, if you do derail, the locomotive will have a tendency, the other locomotive will have a tendency to keep moving without any input. So you'll need to rush over and grab the locomotive and stop it before you go any further. If you're a brand new player to the game and have no clue on what you're doing, the tutorials are your friends. They actually will help in understanding the basics of each locomotive and each mechanic. They're not fully fleshed out or very detailed, but they will get the job done. This also extends to the wiki side of things, which you can access via the H key or whatever key binds you have set up for that particular setup. You can also change the gameplay difficulty settings on the fly. You can do this through the gameplay menu in the options settings, And this will allow you to change things such as fuel consumption, which is very handy for certain locomotives. Not going to name names here. These will allow you to change how much fuel you're using on the fly, but this also is affected by the reverser settings on locomotives. As the higher the reverser setting, the more fuel you'll tend to use, and so on and so forth. Key commands are your friend in a lot of cases, such as the quick menu being tied to the middle mouse button. This will allow you to access things such as the fly cam, the demolish tool, the measuring tools, the tree cutting tool, and so on and so forth. G will open up the build menu and will allow you to build things such as the industries, track, building, decorations, all this kind of stuff. Just be aware that when you're opening up the quick menu and select the demolition tool, that there is a way to select what you can and cannot demolish. This is triggered by the key commands on screen and will allow you to tear down specific items and leave others alone. But there is an option to tear down everything with the construction tool. This is labeled as all, and can be a little dangerous if you're not careful. On the topic of the quick menu, the Rerailing tool is a little more simplified for users nowadays. Back in the day, you would have to just drag the car over and plop it down on the tracks, which led to interesting results. Now, once you select the car, you go over to the track and click on the track, which will automatically re-rail the car. Now, you have to be careful, as these cars can have a tendency to slip back off the tracks, which is a little bit annoying when you're dealing with certain cars. But it also allows you to re-rail the car again if you're still selected on it. This will allow you to also flip the car around using the re-rail tool by clicking the track a second time. This will flip the car back and forth depending on which way you want it set. Naturally, if you found this video helpful, feel free to leave a like on the video or comment down below. Subscribe if you guys want more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.